Do you struggle with the SAT reading and writing passages? Do you find yourself reading the same lines over and over only to realize you still don't understand what they're saying? If so, you're in exactly the right place. My approach isn't about memorizing rules, it's about understanding patterns, thinking strategically, and solving questions with precision. Through these techniques, I've helped students consistently break the 700 barrier and achieve the top scores in the SAT English section. If you're ready to stop guessing, start strategizing, and approach the SAT with confidence, let's dive in. The key to scoring high is learning how to distinguish what truly matters from what is merely fluff. Let me show you what I mean by this. Now, there are certain question types in the reading section where you don't have to understand everything that you are reading. You have to understand only maybe the overall idea of the text, maybe something that is in a particular sentence, right? Some questions on the SAT you'll be able to answer just by reading the first and the last sentence. But again, all of that understanding is going to come to you only and only when you have taken up enough questions. You're familiar with all the kind of structures and patterns that SAT can possibly come up with. Now, to understand this better, let us see the 750 plus SAT English strategy. The first question that we're going to cover is which choice best states the main idea of the text. By now, I'm sure you know what a main idea means, right? It's basically the whole crux of the text. Now, when it comes to these types of questions, you don't have to read everything diligently in a particular text. You have to understand what is going to be important and what is not going to be important. To make you understand this better, let us start reading the text and see what is important and what is not. For centuries, the widespread acknowledgement of the involvement of C, a dense brain structure in vertebrates. So what do we know about these punctuations? We know that they give something that is not essential. So let's remove this and let's not give a lot of attention to it. For centuries, something is happening for centuries and there's a widespread acknowledgement of the involvement of this C in coordinating motor control in humans has hindered recognition of other possible functions of the structure. Now, if you look at this sentence is really lengthy, right? How do I understand the main crux of this sentence without getting into the depth of every word that they have used here? Identify the subject and the verb in the sentence. As simple as that. Now, of course, this phrase is important. You have to be on a constant lookout for these phrases which can hint towards the meaning of the text. In the first sentence, they have given us something about something that they have been following for centuries, something that they have been understanding for centuries, right? Now, with this understanding, let's identify all the verbs in this sentence and the subjects that can be paired with those verbs. So I see a has over here. What has hindered recognition of other possible functions of the structure? This is how we identify the subject, right? So what is that? For centuries, the widespread acknowledgement. This acknowledgement, whatever this is, has hindered. So there is a problem because of this widespread acknowledgement, right? So overall, if I have to look at in the sentence, I'm going to take up only a few aspects out of it. For centuries, they have been understanding something and this has been bad. This is bad for them, right? Because it's hindering something. So for centuries, whatever it is that they have acknowledged, it's hindering something. Now next, neuroscience research from the last 2 decades now suggests. So something that they are suggesting now, right? That the C regulates emotion and social behavior. And recent research by I and colleagues has identified a pathway connecting the C to a center for motivation and reward processing known as the VTM. Now again, there's a lot of information, right? A lot of fluff over here. Do I want to understand everything? Not at all. I've got 27 passages to read in first module and 27 passages to read in the second module, and hopefully you're doing great with your first module. You should get a great module, which means a higher difficulty level module in the second one. So you've got a lot to read, right? And you need to know where you need to put your attention towards. So overall, in the first sentence, the information that I'm going to take away is that for centuries, their understanding of C is hindering something, right? It's a problem for something. Now they know something new, right? So now suggests there's a recent research, there's something new that they have discovered now. Correct? This is all that I know. There was no contradiction involved. It was simply that for centuries something was happening, and then now we've got something new. And that whatever that was happening for centuries was hindering something, was being problematic for something. Correct? Now, I hope you understand how I've been using the word something so often instead of using all the jargons that they have used in this text. I'm doing so that I can save my mental space and have some more space ready in my mind to read more text, right? Do the same. Don't get involved in all the words, all the jargons that they have used. Try to understand the main crux of it by removing all the extra information, right? You've got to do the same. Now, with this overall understanding, I'm going to go and try and eliminate my options. Now, let's look at choice A. The recent verification of a pathway between the VTA and the C confirms the C's long suspected role. The only thing that they were doing for centuries was following one particular aspect, which was hindering the recognition of something else. So long suspected, there was no such long suspicion involved over here, right? This word over here seems off, and so I'm going to eliminate this. Now understand, I've been saying this and emphasizing on this fact that the only way to get to a correct answer is by elimination, correct? So I've understood what I want to understand from the text, and now go to your choices and try to eliminate. See what is off. Long suspected role. There was no such suspicion. They didn't even know what it could do, right? Something now they're able to figure out. Something now that they know that it can do. For centuries they didn't know. So there was no long suspicion as such. Let's go to B. Recent advances in the field of neuroscience have challenged widely accepted claims about the function. First of all, challenged, right? There was no contradictory connector in the text. It's just that something new they have discovered, which is basically adding on to what existed. There is no contradiction. And so that's all. I want to eliminate choice B right here. Let's go to C. The C has primarily been thought to regulate motor functioning. But in recent years, neuroscience researchers have been uncovering additional functions. Now notice how they have used the word but over here. All they want to say is that for years they thought that this is the primary purpose of something, right? The primary usage of something. But now they have found something new. Correct? So there's no contradiction with respect to what they thought about C and what it is now. The earlier aspect still exists, it's just that there's a new addition to it, right? So this makes sense as per the text. I did not find anything wrong over here. Now D. Technological limitations have historically hindered the study of the C. The recent development of new technologies has led to greater insights into these functions. Now, what technologies are we talking about? Right? There's no such technology that we are talking about. There's no new technology that we want to talk about. And anyways, the question is about a main idea, right? If this text was about technology, then the whole should have that mention of technology, correct? It was more about the functions of this C, correct? Widespread acknowledgement of the involvement of the sea in doing something, right? For centuries they thought that it's doing only this, but now they've come up with something new that it can do, right? That's all. So clearly C is the right answer. I hope you understood how you can remove all the fluff in a main idea question and get to your answer real quickly. Now let's see one more such question type where again you don't have to read a lot. So let's see this. What is this question type? What does the text most strongly suggest about Sleep No More's use of its performance space? So this is suggest question type, which means this is a detailed question. So it's about Sleep No More, right? This is what it's about. And what is the whole text suggesting about Sleep No More's use of its performance space? It's a play and you want to talk about the performance space, right? What is it that I can say about the performance space and how Sleep No More play has used this performance play? It's more about that. Now with this understanding, let's go to our text. The most recent iteration of the immersive theater experience, Sleep No More, which premiered in New York City in 2011, transforms its performance space into a 1930s era hotel. So, performance space is transferred to a certain hotel, right? I've read the first sentence. Now, I want to quickly go to the last sentence and read this. The play's refusal of narrative coherence thus hinges on the sense of spatial fragmentation that the venue's immense and intricate layout generates. So, what do I know about the venue? It's immense and it can be used for intricate layout, right? It's huge, it's big, and it's basically something that's been transferred into a 1930s era hotel. There's a lot of words that they have used in the last sentence. It can get really heavy to understand. Let's break this down. The play refuses to do something. The play's refusal of narrative coherence. Coherence is basically simplifying things. So play refuses to make it simple. Thus hinges on the sense of spatial fragmentation that the venues hinges on the sense of spatial fragmentation. Fragmentation means what? These are simple words, right? Fragments. Something that's been divided into small fragments. It's complicated because there are fragments involved. That the venue's immense and intricate layout generates. So something that the play wanted to do, and the venue is going to help the play being able to implement that. The play refuses to make it simple, so the venue is helping the play to be a little more than just a simple play. So the venue is helping the play in being a little more. And how is it helping? Because it's huge. The venue is huge. The play doesn't want to be simple, so it's like the perfect match. This is what I understand from the last sentence. And this is all that you need. With this understanding, let's go to our options and again, let's try to eliminate. We've got A. The choice of a New York City venue likely enable the play's creators to experiment with the use of the theatrical space in a way that venues from earlier productions could not. Now here, what do I know about earlier productions? Do I know anything? Now to think of it. Nothing, right? The text says nothing about the earlier productions and what could they make use out of and what they could not. So clearly A is irrelevant, right? B. Audience members likely find the experience of the play disappointing because they generally cannot make their way through the entire venue. This is about the audience members, right? I want to talk about the performance space, not about the audience members. Whether they found the experience of the play disappointing or not is another thing. I want to talk about the relationship between the play and the venue, not with the audience members. So clearly B is also out. C. The production's dependence on a particular performance environment would likely make it difficult to reproduce exactly in a different theatrical space. This is a possible answer. Why? Because I did see the hint of this in the last sentence. The production's dependence on a particular performance environment. They want things to be a little more than just simple, right? They refuse the narrative coherence. They don't want that narrative coherence, which the venue is giving them properly, right? The immense and intricate layout it generates is helping the production in a way. So the production's dependence on a particular performance environment would likely make it difficult to read. And I really like the word likely over here because it says that it's a possibility, but there's no surety or guarantee around it. So I really like the word likely. It's likely making it difficult to reproduce exactly in a different theatrical space, right? There is a certain dependence that the performance has on the venue that they are using, correct? The performance doesn't want to be simple. The venue is just giving the performance what it wants. So clearly C kind of makes sense already, but I still have to go to choice D and eliminate it. Audience members who navigate the space according to a recommended itinerary will likely have a better grasp of the play's narrative than audience members who depart. This is a comparison between audience members, which is totally irrelevant. Now, I want you to remember one more thing. This is a little extra information, aside from what we are discussing about. Whenever you come across a comparison in a particular option, quickly check what the comparison is in between. If that comparison is even made in the text. Most of the times in the reading section, you'll be able to eliminate your choices just because it's comparing something that's not even been discussed in the text or that's not even been compared in the text. So that can help you a lot in quickly eliminating your option. And that makes choice C the correct option. Again, I hope you understood this particular detailed subtype, which can be attempted just by reading the first and the last sentence of the text without getting into all the fluff that's been given to me in the text. Another question type which doesn't require a lot of reading, that is main purpose question. So main purpose is basically, again, a question type where you need to answer why is the author saying whatever he's saying rather than what. So remember, you don't have to get in all the fluff that's been given in the text. You don't have to remember any information. You don't have to understand every word. Let's pay attention to the structure of the text and how everything's being talked about. Okay, now with this understanding, let's start reading the text. Some studies have suggested that posture can influence cognition, but we should not overstate this phenomenon. Some studies, this itself is a huge hint towards what the text is about. Some studies have suggested that posture can influence cognition. So some studies suggesting posture can influence cognition, but we should not overstate. Pay attention to the contradictory connector. Like I always keep saying, contradictory connectors are very important. So when you come across them, give good attention to it, understand what's changing. It's saying that some studies are suggesting something, but we should not overstate it, right? And then we have a case in point and a colon, which is basically an explanation of this case. Do I want to read all of it? Maybe not right now. Correct? Now with this understanding, let's just go to the last sentence. But O and A actually found no difference in the group's performance. So they did not find any difference in the group's performance. So now there's a certain curiosity in my mind. I want to know what the groups were. So now I want to go back to that case in point and read what the group is. A case in point in a 2014 study, M and A had subjects stand or sit while making risky simulated economic decisions. So that's the group. There you have it. They were making subjects stand or sit. And what is the last sentence telling me? It's basically the conclusion of the text that they did not find any difference in the groups. So going back to the first sentence, which is like an overall main idea of the whole text, some studies have suggested that posture can influence, but don't overstate it. Remember how they're saying don't overstate it, and they're not completely denying it. They're saying that there still can be a difference or there still can be an influence, but don't completely rely on it. Don't overstate it. With this understanding, let us go to our choices now. A. It argues that research findings about the effects of posture and cognition are often misunderstood, as in the case of O and A study. In the case of O and A study, nothing was misunderstood. The first sentence was not saying that something was misunderstood. It's saying don't overstate it. Don't go in extremes with that opinion. It's still true that posture can influence your cognition, but don't overstate it. So no misunderstanding over here. Choice A is wrong. Let's go to B. It presents a study by O and A to critique the methods and results reported in previous studies of the effects of posture and cognition. Now in choice B, we don't know anything about the effects or the studies of the effects of posture and cognition. It's just some studies. Are we still referring to the same previous studies, which are these some studies or not, is not being stated. So the purpose of the text is not to critique the methods and results reported in the previous studies. Again, the purpose of the text has been clearly stated in the first sentence. Don't overstate this. As simple as that. Let's go to C. It explains a significant problem in the emerging understanding of posture's effects on cognition and how O and A try to solve that problem. What problem? There was no problem in it, correct? It did mention that some studies have suggested this and don't overstate it. That's it. What is the solution? More than that, where is the solution? There's no solution. They have simply reported the facts. What can we do about it is going to be a solution. So there is no solution. I'm going to eliminate choice C, because how to solve that problem, if there is any, because of this whole understanding, is still not there in the text. Choice D, it discusses a study by O and A to illustrate why caution is needed when making claims about the effects of posture and cognition. Caution is needed. That's the key. Don't overstate this phenomenon, which basically indirectly is trying to say that be cautious. And this is exactly what choice D is saying. So I like this, and this is the purpose of the text. Now, with this understanding, let us look at one more question type where again you don't have to get into the details of the whole text. That is the overall structure of the text. When you deal with a text structure question type, I've said it earlier as well, look at your choices. When you look at your choices, try to see how many structures the choices are being divided into. It discusses two different responses, comma, explains why one of those resources occurs, comma, and then. So three, right? There are three phases as per choice A. And I again see something similar in choice B, comma, and then, comma, and then, comma, and then, which means all the options have three parts. Now, let's read the first sentence and see if I can eliminate anything on the first part of these options. V and G showed that high moonlight intensity inhibits the activity of the greater short-nosed fruit bat. A result explicable in terms of benefits and costs. And then there's a colon, which is basically an explanation of this. Like the result that can be explained in terms of benefits and costs, and maybe they are going to explain it further with respect to benefits and costs. With this understanding, let us go to our choices and see if we could eliminate anything. It discusses two different responses to the same natural phenomena. Yes, there are two responses, so nothing wrong. It describes and accounts for a finding. It is a finding, so again, nothing wrong. It presents and explains a study result. It is presenting a study in this sentence, and the result is also given, so nothing wrong. It introduces an observation of a behavioral pattern. So yeah, I mean, this is also a behavioral pattern which has been introduced, so nothing is wrong in the first part of all the choices. So which makes me read ahead and see if I could eliminate anything. Most other nocturnal mammals respond to lunar intensity variations similarly to greater short-nosed fruit bats, but mongoose display the opposite pattern. So most of them respond in a certain manner, but this particular species is following something opposite, as their heavy reliance on visual foraging results in a different balance of reward and risk. Again, all of this information is not so important. I want to put focus on the structure, that is, most of them follow a certain response, but this particular species is showing an opposite pattern. Now, with this understanding, let us go to our last parts, because this was the last sentence of the text. I want to go to the last part. Then suggests that the other responses still needs to be explained. The last sentence did not talk about something that needs to be explained further, which makes this option wrong. That is not how the text ended. Let's go to B. And then describes and accounts for an exception to that pattern. There is an exception, right? This particular species is following an opposite pattern, so there is an exception. So I like this, but still, we still have to go ahead and look at other choices if we can eliminate the last part of these options or not. Then attributes a conflicting study result to a difference in that study's methods. That's the problem. The last part of the text did not talk about the difference in the study's methods. It talked about how differently a particular species responded or how it behaved when generally other nocturnal mammals respond in a certain different manner. So C is again out. It's not about the methods. That is not how the text ended. D then describes an exception to the pattern that casts doubt on that explanation. It was all fine till here. The problem is this. Casting doubt on that explanation, it's not casting doubt. It's just giving you an exception that this is not responding how others respond. There is no casting doubt on any explanation, which makes choice B correct. Now again, I hope you understood how I avoided all the extra information in this text and try to figure out which option is the correct one. This is the strategy that I want you to use for all these question types. Now again, I'm not saying that this is something that can be followed for each question type. Every question type is different. Every question type needs to be dealt with in a different manner. And you just have to know the right strategy in terms of how you can save your time over there. Not everything in the text that you read needs to be understood, especially for these question types that we have just seen. I hope this helps.